As far as video games goes in the 90s, the main company and most talked about system was the Super Nintendo. Nintendo was hitting its stride with great game after great game, from the first party side of things, but what also made the system stand out as far as a great library of games was the overwhelming third party support. And one of the companies that made it possible was Capcom, with their completely spectacular lineup of classic games. One of these series of games was MegaMan X. From X1 and onward, Capcom proved they could make more than just regular Mega Man games. MegaMan X was a complete and utter classic, and I'm sure others will agree, but with the success of MegaMan X, how about its sequel MegaMan X2? I never really had experience with the game as a child, but when I first experienced the game, I was blown away by the awesome graphics, great story, and a soundtrack that really rivals the original game in the series. But is MegaMan X as good, if not better, than the original game? Or is this game the same with a few touches here and there? Let's find out on my review of MegaMan X2. The history for MegaMan X2 started at the end of the creation of the first game. While artist Keiji Inafune was busy at work with MegaMan X, other artists were hard at work creating the sequel. Inafune said it would be a shame to keep Zero dead, and so the story was centered around Zero. They wanted to push the system's capabilities with new effects chips coming out for the Super Nintendo. Capcom wanted to enhance the MegaMan X experience with a new chip called the CX4 chip. This chip was a glorified FX chip. Fast forward to December 16th, 1994, and the game was released under the name MegaMan X2. The gameplay for MegaMan X2 is honestly mostly just like the first game, so I could just say go back and watch my review of the first game, but I feel like the review is pretty outdated, so I'll explain the gameplay. Be forewarned, that means I may not explain some of the gameplay throughout the series. The gameplay for MegaMan X2 is still as simplistic as the first game, just with more variety and character changes from the first game. First off, you select Game Start to start a new game. Upon starting the new game, you get thrusted into the first level. You may notice a few things. First off, MegaMan X loses the enhancements you got from the first game. This is something I don't get as far as a gameplay standpoint goes. Why does he lose his upgrades? It seems like he just shaves them off or something. Secondly, MegaMan X retains his dash, which really makes the game flow so much easier. Look at MegaMan X Fly. This enhancement already makes the game faster for gamers who are experts at the series, but also gives the not so expert players an option to go at their own pace, which is great. After beating the first level, which is short by the way, you can now select one of the 8 Mavericks by going to one of each of the levels. There's still 8 hard tanks and 4 sub tanks, and 4 Dr. Light capsules. Dr. Light left these capsules, which have very unique abilities to the series, besides the head and body armors, which kinda have the same effects as the first MegaMan X game. The arm cannon, which has a unique ability that shoots a mega charge shot, just like the first game, but it holds a second charge shot, which is more powerful than the first one. The leg upgrade allows MegaMan X to dash in the air, which is really great, because if you're going for everything in the game, it really helps you get to these hard to reach places. But combining both the abilities of the arm cannon charge and the leg, you get other secrets as well, and this makes the game so much fun. However, you don't necessarily need it to do everything in the game. You can honestly go just as far as beating the 8 Mavericks and then beating the game. However, without the upgrades, you might as well say goodbye to your sanity and your arteries and anything that you want as far as your sanity goes. Not only does this make this game easier, but it's definitely worth it to get all the upgrades, because if you get all the upgrades and keep full health in Sigma Stage 3, you can then slide down this path to get the infamous Shuriken, which can kill bosses in one hit. It's easier to control also, which makes short work of this boss in the stage. Speaking of bosses, most of the bosses in MegaMan X2 are actually a bit tougher than MegaMan X. Sometimes it does not even depend on the order in which you go. For example, in Wire Sponge's stage, his boss fight is extremely hard, even though I am taking him down with his weakness. He still gets to do whatever he wants. Another example of this is Crystal Snail. Unless I get rid of his shell and keep it moving around, he gets to do exactly whatever he wants. There are pathetic bosses just like the first game, but the difficulty spike from the first game to the second game is tremendous. Although some of the bosses are difficult, I really do like the boss designs. Using the CX4 chip, it really makes some of the bosses stand out. My favorite boss in this game has to be Overdrive Ostrich. Not because of the fact MegaMan X destroys a missile right before the boss fight, but seriously, that is freaking awesome. But also makes him unique out of all the other Mavericks in the series because he goes in the background then jumps into the foreground. This is a really cool effect done on the Super Nintendo game. And the fact that this game is on the Super Nintendo and makes this effect is also more astonishing. The controls in this game are very tight and precise, just like the first game. In fact, I could gush over the controls in all the MegaMan X games, except the 7th one. The controls really make the games fantastic, and has something new to offer for the series with a dash at the beginning of the adventure. This really makes things stand out over games in the series so far, and I know what you're all thinking down, there has to be some bad things you dislike about the gameplay. And to be honest, not really. I think the game is super hard, especially for some of the boss fights, and the fact that the final boss is some kind of a joke. But other than that, the gameplay and level design is spot on. Speaking of level design, I love every level in this game. Levels have nice pacing and are not too big for a MegaMan X game. And that's saying something because other levels in MegaMan X and other X games can feel a bit overbearing and long. This game is perfect with level design and length. The final thing I want to touch on for this game is the graphics. The graphics in this game are awesome. With the updated CX4 chip, this really makes the game stand out over other Super Nintendo games. And everything is super eye-catchy in this game with the color scheme. It is exquisite, and I really enjoy going to levels like Crystal Snail and Wire Sponge's levels for the aesthetics alone. The sound from MegaMan X2 is pretty much the same for MegaMan X, so I really won't go much into the MegaMan X2 sound because it sounds like the beast of a robot in the first game that MegaMan X was. I really do want to go into the soundtrack. The soundtrack, although having some great tunes in it, is not really that strong, nor my cup of tea. I understand what Capcom was trying to do, but it really feels like the effort as far as music goes is non-existent. It sounds like they were trying to make MegaMan X2's soundtrack very much something of a hard rock genre of a video game soundtrack, and it really feels like 17 steps down from what the original game was. I understand also that MegaMan X had one of the best soundtracks of all time, and that's hard to compete with, but still, the effort to make an even great soundtrack was lackluster at best. However, I do really like the Password theme and the Sigma stage themes. Other than that, I really can't give the soundtrack anything higher than like a 6 out of 10. The story for MegaMan X2 begins 6 months after the first game ended. During this time, a mass production of Reploids is suddenly appearing in great numbers. From a laboratory discovered from Dr. Kane and MegaMan X and Co. decide to investigate. After getting to the laboratory and the death of the green biker dude, oh green biker dude, we barely knew ye. And after taking on the great big robot, there are 3 mysterious figures, Violin, Surges, and Agile. They're watching MegaMan X's very move and are seeing him get stronger, and they decide to take action by telling MegaMan X and Dr. Kane they have Zero's parts, and are closer to restoring him back to his former self. After defeating all 8 Mavericks, it seems MegaMan X has failed to save Zero, and has been built by the X-Hunters and Sigma. After getting through all 4 Sigma stages, one of them being a boss rush, and then getting to the final fortress, what ensues is a ripoff of basically the same level from Magna Centipedes. What happened? Did you run out of ideas again, Capcom? For reals, this is an example of being lazy and recycling levels. After reaching the end of the level, then X sees what he must do by fighting Zero. After defeating Zero, Zero comes to his senses and the brainwashing wears off. After Zero sees his friend is needing to take down Sigma, he creates an entrance to Sigma's room, and the final battle ensues. After an easy-ish boss battle, MegaMan X defeats Sigma, and you can see just like the first game, MegaMan X is staring at the flaming fortress that just exploded, and then the credits ensue. This is just one of the two endings from MegaMan X2. Personally, I like this one better. The story in this game is actually really good for a Mega Man X game, or for a Mega Man game in general. I really do like the X Hunters, they're pretty cool. I like Dr. Kane, who is a wise old man who really gets the job done helping Mega Man X. All in all, the story is actually what makes this game really great, and makes it stand out over the other games in the series. The pros completely outweigh the cons for this review. The graphics, gameplay, sound, and story are fantastic and are some of the best on the Super Nintendo. This really makes the game stand out over other Super Nintendo games, including the original game in the Mega Man X series. The cons are really only one thing. The music's not that great, and honestly, the really only reason why I think Mega Man X is a better game out of both games so far is because of the music. For this game, it's a lackluster effort, and it's really showing how much it's lacking in effort to make a great soundtrack for Mega Man X2. Mega Man X2 is a completely spectacular platforming game. I can see why it's considered to be one of the best games in the series. While not my favorite in the series, I really enjoyed what I played, and I will be playing this game for a really long time. This is a game you definitely should give a try, and with the Mega Man X collection coming out in the summer, you should really take this opportunity to get such a great game. I give this game a 9.2 out of 10. Very close to the first game score, but the music was too much for me to give it anything higher. Well, that does it, folks. We beat Sigma, we saved Mega Man X's world once again. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time. Why are you ignoring me, Dylan? Haha. Oh, look, folks, it's Mickey Mouse. Oh, joy. Don't be sarcastic, you little twit. Haha. You owe me for the crap you put me through. Haha. What are you talking about? You haven't reviewed many of my games yet, haha. Oh yeah, I guess that I haven't played one of your games. So what? No you haven't, but I ain't ready for you to review one of my games just yet, haha. What? Okay, why are you laughing after each sentence? I want to have some fun with you, and that's none of your business, so I'm gonna leave. Take care, haha. Man, I really wish these characters that I've dreamt about meeting ever since I was a little kid would just leave me alone. You meet them once and then you just can't stand them. Anyway, see you guys next time.